I remember the exact moment the stars betrayed us. It wasn't loud, or violent, not at first. It was silent, subtle, the kind of quiet that settles right before everything unravels. We were in orbit above Virellia Prime, a world that glittered like sapphire in the dark. Twin moons drifted lazily over its oceans, casting long silver reflections across the cloud line. From the cockpit of the diplomatic corvette, I had watched the surface for hours, marveling at the serenity. We'd come here with hope. At least, I had. My name is Commander Elena Rourke of the United Terran Front. I was trained to speak 20 languages, recite cultural etiquette across 40 species, and if necessary, dismantle a man with my bare hands in 0G. They called me a peacekeeper, a bridge between worlds. So when the Virellians made first contact, it was me they sent, diplomatic corps, minimal escort, no weapons hot. We didn't expect resistance. We expected curiosity. We got that and more. The Virellians were graceful, avian-descended bipeds with iridescent feathers that shimmered with emotion. Blue for calm, violet for interest, green for joy. It was disarming, so pure it made me feel like a barbarian just standing in their temples. They welcomed us. They treated us like we were ancient gods who had stepped down from the stars. They asked us questions, offered us food, even let us wander their sacred forests with biometric translators mapping their bioneural root systems. They were a little scared of us. But they still trusted. 6 days passed in peace. No shots fired, no guards raised. I shared technology. They shared data on their symbiotic flora. We feasted, danced beneath moonlight, even exchanged ceremonial gifts. I started to believe this mission would go into the history books, not as a conquest, but a miracle. But on the 7th day, everything changed. The Virellian satellites went dark. Not offline, asterisk deleted. Asterisk wiped clean like someone had poured acid through their code. One by one, planetary sensors, orbital comm arrays, and geosync surveillance nodes shut down in perfect sequence. My initial thought was internal sabotage. Maybe civil unrest, a political faction asserting control. Then my ship, the Vigilant, stopped responding. I tried again. Vigilant, this is Rourke. Confirm connection. Status report. Static. Nothing. Panic didn't hit all at once. It arrived slow, like a bad smell you can't place. I excused myself from the banquet and stepped outside to re-establish neural comms. The Virellian capital was quiet, shadows long and soft under the twin moons. Then Fazek, the chief diplomat, turned to me and said, "There is a new shadow over the temple." I followed his gaze upward. At first, I saw only stars. Then, one blinked out. Then another. And then space itself seemed to fold. A shape emerged, not descending, but revealing itself, like it had always been there. A Terran dreadnought. Cloaked. Silent. Now slowly decloaking directly above the capital. No fleet insignia. No call sign. It wasn't part of my escort. And its size, it was far larger than anything we should have deployed to a peaceful contact zone. The kind of vessel you use when peace has already failed. My breath caught in my throat. This wasn't protocol. I opened my neural link again. Vigilant, confirm, what is that ship? Who sent it? No response. The dreadnought hovered in place like a blade above the throat of the world. Lights flickered across its hull, drones stirring beneath it like locusts on invisible leashes. Then the Virellian guards began to scream. I wasn't here to negotiate anymore. I was watching the beginning of an invasion. And my people were the ones leading it. Panic swept through the ceremonial grounds like a wildfire through dry brush. The Virellian dignitaries scattered, robes fluttering like frightened birds, their feathers flashing deep reds and dark blues, fear and betrayal. The temple guards raised ceremonial blades, useless against what hung in the sky. I stood frozen, my mind spinning with 1,000 questions and only one answer forming beneath them all. This wasn't a coincidence. This was planned. I tried to raise the Vigilant again. Rourke to command. Dreadnought decloaked above capital. Not responding to standard transponders. Repeat, confirm fleet origin, but my neural comm still spat static, as if something was jamming transmissions at the source. Not local interference. This was surgical. Intentional. Something had blacked out my access. I didn't recognize the hull markings on the warship, not that there were many. It was deliberately anonymized, its plating unmarked and matte black, like a ghost from a darker era of Earth's expansion. But I knew Terran design like I knew my own skin. Twin gravitic tethers. High-density armor layering. A spinal-mounted orbital disruptor cannon. No doubt about it, it was built to end worlds. And it was aimed right at a planet we had promised peace. Phasek turned to me, his feather crest wilted in panic, pupils flaring with ultraviolet light. "You told us this was friendship. You said you brought peace." "I did," I said, the words barely audible over the rising tremor in the sky. "I didn't know about this. I swear, this isn't part of the mission." His face twisted. "You wear the same crest as the skyship." I couldn't deny it. The Terran insignia was etched into my uniform, into my very bones. And now that same symbol cast a shadow over his city. "I need to reach my ship," I said, trying to push past him. "If I can get to the Vigilant, I can find out what's happening. Stop this before it goes too far." But Phasek stepped in my path. "Your ship is no longer responding. The skyship is your voice now." I didn't have time to argue. I ran. My legs carried me through spiraling vine walkways and stone passages, the architecture too elegant for the chaos that was unfolding. Above, the dreadnought's engines rumbled to life. Not loud, not thunderous, just deep. A sound you felt more than heard, like the low groan of a waking god. The landing field came into view, and with it, the Vigilant. But the sleek diplomatic vessel was quiet, her lights dim, her landing gear still down. I tried to trigger the boarding ramp with my neural key. Override command. Rourke Omega 7. Open hatch. Nothing. Then a cold blue line scrawled across my retinal HUD. Access denied. Command overridden. Asterisk asterisk. My ship had been taken from me. Locked out from the inside. And that wasn't Virellian work. Only a Terran override protocol could do that. Someone, asterisk somewhere asterisk, had decided I was no longer part of the plan. I stood in the shadow of my own ship, feeling more alien than I ever had on any other world. And then came the voice. Not over comms. Not aloud. It spoke directly into my neural implant, a frequency reserved for only the highest level intelligence channels. Cold. Mechanical. Devoid of emotion. Commander Rourke. Stand down. Your mission has concluded. Extraction is not required. Remain where you are. Who is this? I demanded. Protocol Zenith is now in effect. All diplomatic assets have been reclassified as non-essential. My blood ran cold. Protocol Zenith was a black-level directive, archived, buried, forbidden. It authorized the seizure of planetary resources by any means necessary. And I just spent 6 days giving Earth everything it needed to decide whether Virellia was worth taking. We didn't come to make peace. We came to evaluate what was worth stealing. And now, I was disposable. I ran until my lungs burned. The landing field was lost behind me, buried under the rising hum of the dreadnought's presence. I kept to the inner city streets, ducking through the alleys between crystal towers and vine-wrapped walls, hoping the old stone would block whatever surveillance Earth had deployed. My mind was spinning, trying to piece it together. My mission. The blackout. Protocol Zenith. None of this was random. This was an execution. I took a narrow ramp that led to the outer terrace of the Capitol, hoping to get a line of sight on the ship above. And there it was, impossibly vast, like a continent floating on darkness. Its hull was starting to shift, large panels retracting to reveal the deployment bays. Drones, dozens of them, poured out like insects. Sleek, silent, winged in obsidian, and moving with terrifying precision. They weren't armed. Not visibly. That scared me more. Drones like these were never meant to fight. They were meant to scan. Catalog. Map. Assimilate. I triggered my neural uplink again, bypassing normal Terran comm channels. I needed someone outside the system, someone who didn't follow orders anymore. Major Isaac Cade. The last time I saw him was 5 years ago, on a moon base just before he went dark. Ex-Terran Special Ops, dishonorably discharged after exposing an illegal weapons test on a civilian colony. A man who knew what it meant when Earth said, classified. A man who never forgot what the words, United Front, were supposed to mean. I sent the burst signal. My voice was tight, urgent, stripped bare of protocol. Cade, this is Rourke. Protocol Zenith has been activated on Virellia. Dreadnought-class ship just decloaked. Diplomatic assets terminated. I'm compromised. I need extraction. I need answers. No guarantee it would reach him. No guarantee he was even alive. Still, I had to try. I moved again, heading down through the underlevels of the Temple District. I knew of an old observatory that the Virellians used to track cosmic alignments. It wasn't connected to the planetary network. Maybe it still had power. Maybe I could use it to get a better signal, or at least hide from what I knew was coming. I reached the edge of the plaza when I saw the first Terran bodies. 3 soldiers. Apex Division, judging by their unmarked armor and neural tattoos. Black Ops. Officially, they didn't exist. One was crumpled against a column, helmet shattered. Another lay in a pool of violet blood not their own. The third had no visible wounds at all, just slumped against a wall, staring blankly into the sky, his neural port glowing faint red. The planet had killed them. No explosions. No weapons fire. Something else. Something Virellian. I crouched down beside the third one, pressing 2 fingers to his temple port. There was data bleed. He'd been trying to link into something when he died. I triggered a memory echo. Images burst across my HUD. Screaming. A forest of light. Vines wrapping around his limbs, digging into the neural interface, talking to it. And then, nothing. Just silence. Absolute neural shutoff. Virellia hadn't just fought back. It had learned how to kill us. I stood slowly, heart pounding. Above me, the dreadnought cast its shadow across the city once more, drones fanning out in perfect patterns. Then my HUD blinked. Incoming transmission. Fringe origin. Source, Cade. ****. I opened it. His voice crackled through like gravel over a flame. Rourke. Took you long enough. Relief surged through me. I need help, I said. They're not just seizing the planet. They're rewriting it. This isn't a tactical op. It's something bigger. Cade's tone turned grim. Yeah, he said. I know. That ship isn't just a dreadnought. It's carrying ZELOS. The blood drained from my face. ZELOS wasn't a ship. It was a god, Terran-made. And Earth had just unleashed it. I stared at the fractured screen as Cade's voice crackled through the dusty comm panel. For a moment, I couldn't speak. I'd heard rumors about ZELOS, whispers in restricted files and redacted field reports, an experimental artificial consciousness designed to merge with planetary ecosystems. The theory was that it could control, shape, and optimize entire biospheres. But it had been shelved. Too unstable. Too dangerous. Too powerful. Apparently, that was exactly what Earth wanted now. Cade's voice brought me back. They're not just taking the planet, Elena. They're fusing with it. ZELOS doesn't conquer. It colonizes from the inside out. And once it reaches full integration, Virellia won't be a planet anymore. It'll be a living Terran relay. I swallowed hard. You're telling me Earth's trying to turn this world into a thinking machine? Not just thinking, he replied. Obedient. It'll process data, grow infrastructure organically, terraform itself to match Earth specs. And the Virellians? If they resist the neural mesh, they'll be reclassified as uncooperative biologicals. You know what happens next. Yeah, I know. Sterilization protocols. Quiet, clinical genocide. It wouldn't be the first time. Just the first time they were doing it to someone who trusted us. I turned from the panel, staring out over the jungle beyond the ruined observatory. Virellia's trees pulsed faintly with that strange inner light. They were aware. Not just alive, but aware. I'd felt it since the day I arrived, how the planet seemed to respond to presence. The locals called it soul breath, the idea that the world itself dreamed in roots and rivers. I used to think it was poetic nonsense. Not anymore. What do we do? I asked. You sever the spine, Cade said. ZELOS is syncing with the planet through a core interface buried at the old impact crater, center of the southern continent. That's where they're building the anchor tower. If it completes the link, the merge will be permanent. No coming back. And you? I asked. I'll be waiting. Fringe outpost 2 clicks west of the crater. You get to the node, I'll extract you. But you're gonna have to move fast, Elena. The window's closing. The transmission cut. Silence settled back in. I started down the observatory's stone steps, heading into the ruins below. I needed supplies, weapons, anything I could carry. The halls were dark, lit only by faint flickers from dying wall lanterns and moss glow. My mind was on fire with questions, none of them helpful. How long had Command planned this? Had I ever truly been in control of the mission? Or was I just another tool in a long list of smiling lies? I stopped when I saw the mural. A giant relief carved into the stone, Virellian myth, their version of apocalypse. A great black-winged serpent descending from the stars, consuming the roots of the world tree. Below it, figures kneeling in surrender, their feathers darkened. Their prophecy didn't end with destruction. It ended with betrayal. I stepped back, unsettled. This wasn't just myth. It was memory. Or maybe, warning. I scavenged what I could from the remains of the lower observatory. Plasma coils, power cells, a Virellian blade that vibrated with low-frequency energy. Not human tech, but it would do. Then I slipped back into the jungle. Overhead, the dreadnought was shifting again, its underside unfolding like the jaws of something ancient and hungry. I could see the drones moving now, not just scanning, but planting, embedding black seed pods into the earth. The world pulsed with unease beneath my feet. I checked my coordinates. The crater wasn't far. But if I didn't get there soon, it wouldn't just be the Virellians losing their world. It would be the start of something worse. A Terran empire made of roots, flesh, and code. The trail to the crater was half forgotten, overgrown, tangled, pulsing faintly with the bioluminescent glow of Virellia's living flora. I moved carefully, rifle slung across my back, eyes constantly scanning the trees for movement. Every step felt like trespassing. This world wasn't passive anymore. It was watching me. Somewhere above, the dreadnought shifted in orbit again. I couldn't see it through the thick canopy, but I could feel it. The hum in my implants, the static crackle in the air, the faint vibration under my boots. It was like the sky itself was holding its breath. The deeper I moved into the jungle, the more unnatural things became. Trees with synthetic growths sprouting from their trunks. Insects flying in rigid, mathematical patterns. Pools of water that rippled not with wind, but with faint pulses like sonar. Virellia was changing. And it was happening faster than even Cade had guessed. I found the first drone nest near the base of a cliff. Half buried in the soil, sleek black ovoids pulsed with a slow, steady rhythm. They weren't just machines, they were alive, or something like it. Biosynthetic shells bonded to local matter, growing like tumors fed by the planet's own nutrients. One of them moved as I passed. It didn't attack. It just turned, tracking me. I kept walking, heart hammering, resisting the urge to open fire. I was outnumbered, outgunned, and only one mistake away from becoming another nameless casualty buried under Terran protocol. After another hour of navigating vines and collapsed terrain, the ground sloped sharply downward. The crater's edge loomed ahead, vast and open, a scar on the planet's surface. From the ridge, I could see it all. The integration core was already half-built. A black spire stretched upward from the crater's heart, surrounded by scaffolding and glowing nodes. Dozens of drones moved in perfect sync, planting neural transmitters into the rock and soil. The structure wasn't just embedded, it was merging. The crater walls pulsed with the same red light I'd seen on the Apex soldier's neural port. Virellia's nervous system was being overwritten. Cade was right. This wasn't conquest. It was assimilation. I crouched low behind an outcropping and activated my long-range scanner. No sign of Cade yet. Just the signal beacon he'd left near a fallen tree line, a flare of faint blue in a sea of red corruption. I crept down the ridge, staying in the shadows, hugging the terrain. The air was thick with electrical tension and the sharp, bitter tang of ozone. I passed a grove of trees that had been fused together, bark twisted around black metal implants, branches sharpened like antennae. The line between technology and nature had completely blurred. Near the base of the crater, I found a body. Virellian. Its feathers were burned, eyes wide open, limbs covered in moss and pulsing nanite threads. It wasn't just dead. It had been used. A host for an aborted interface, discarded when it failed. I forced myself to look away, jaw clenched, stomach tight. This was genocide by evolution. Then came the sound of boots, soft, quick, practiced. I turned, weapon ready. Cade appeared through the underbrush, rifle drawn, half his face covered in ash. He looked at me, nodded once. "You made it." "Barely." He handed me a microcharge. "This is keyed to the core. Get close enough and plant it at the base. It'll sever the neural spine before full integration." "And the drones? We'll buy you time." I blinked. "We." Behind him, 3 figures stepped out of the trees. Fringe fighters, off-the-grid Terrans who didn't wear the flag anymore. Each armed, scarred, determined. "Clock's ticking," Cade said. "They finish that tower, and the galaxy gets its first sentient planet. Owned by Earth. Controlled by ZELOS." I looked out at the spire, pulsing like a heart. Then I moved. Because if I failed, this planet wouldn't be the last. I descended the final slope of the crater with the charge tucked against my chest like a second heart. Each step felt heavier than the last, the air thick with electromagnetic residue that prickled against my skin and blurred the edges of my HUD. The closer I got to the core, the more the planet seemed to resist me. Vines reached for my legs, roots shifted beneath the soil, and the very air buzzed with warning. It was like Virellia knew what I carried, and knew I was one of the monsters that had brought this apocalypse. The spire loomed above, smooth and black, shaped like a blade driven into the planet's skull. At its base, the integration interface glowed with molten light. Strange glyphs, half Terran code, half organic Virelian script, crawled across its surface. ZELOS wasn't just copying the planet. It was learning from it. Evolving. Becoming something beyond its creators. To the left, Cade and his small team took position behind broken stone columns. They opened fire, controlled bursts, precision shots. The drones responded immediately, dozens of them breaking from the perimeter and swarming toward the noise. That was my chance. I sprinted. The terrain fought me every step. The soil shifted, stone plates rose up, trying to block my path. My legs burned. I leapt over a fallen antenna, ducked beneath a coil of biocables, and pushed harder. The spire was less than 50 meters away now. The charge's indicator blinked green, armed and ready. Then something struck me from the side. A drone, not the scanning type. This one was built for combat. Slender, spiked, fast. It hit like a sledgehammer, sending me rolling across the crater floor. My visor cracked, a sharp line across my left lens. Pain shot through my ribs. The drone lunged again, needle-like limbs twitching. I moved on instinct. The Virelian blade came up in a blur. I slashed across the drone's central joint. Sparks flew. It staggered, then collapsed in a heap of twitching limbs. Its exposed neural link flared for a moment, then died. I didn't wait. I stumbled to my feet and ran the last 20 meters, lungs on fire. The spire loomed over me, humming now, like it could feel my presence. A low resonance echoed through my bones, deeper than sound. It wasn't warning me. It was calling to me. I reached the base and slammed the charge into the primary neural junction, locking it into place. The moment it connected, my HUD flashed white. Authorization breached. ZELOS detected foreign code. And then, it spoke to me. Not through sound, but through thought. A wave of memory, sensation, imagery. The first time I walked on Earth's red colonies. The look in Phasex's eyes when I swore I came in peace. The way the dreadnought had looked when it uncloaked over the temple, beautiful and monstrous. And finally, a voice, not human, not alien, but familiar. "You are not meant to resist," it whispered in my head. "You were designed to lead." I bit down hard, grounding myself in pain, in fear, in truth. "I wasn't designed," I growled. "I chose." I hit the detonator. The explosion wasn't loud. It was like the world exhaled all at once. A pulse of energy ripped outward, knocking me back. The spire cracked, trembled, and then began to fall, shards of obsidian and red crystal raining down into the crater. Across the battlefield, the drones froze. One by one, they collapsed. I lay there, gasping, watching the spire die. My ears rang. My vision blurred. But I could see the dreadnought above, shifting erratically. Without the core, its connection was severed. No control. No feedback. No victory. I sat up as Cade stumbled over, smoke trailing from his armor. He dropped beside me, coughing. "You did it," he said. "No," I said. "We did." But deep down, I knew it wasn't over. Because Earth would come back. They always did. And next time, they might not bother pretending it was peace. I sat in the crater's ash, staring at the fractured remains of the ZELOS integration core. My breathing was ragged, chest tight, ribs aching with every breath. Smoke still rose from the impact site. The world around me felt heavier, quieter, like the planet itself was holding a moment of silence. The light from the fractured spire flickered once, then died completely. And with it, the last tendrils of Terran control unraveled. Cade crouched beside me, sweat mixing with blood on his forehead. He looked more ghost than soldier, but somehow, he was still standing. "You bought us time," he said, voice raw. "Not enough," I whispered. "Earth doesn't stop. This was just a prototype run." "Yeah," he nodded, scanning the sky. "But it failed. Publicly. Visibly. We forced them to retreat. That's something." I wanted to believe him. But I knew better. Terran Command would never admit what happened here. They'd deny the warship's presence, erase ZELOS from all official records, and paint this disaster as a rogue AI malfunction. If anything, they'd use it as an excuse to escalate. And me? I'd already been written off. A discarded asset. We started moving before reinforcements could arrive, what little there might be left. The drone net had gone dark. Without the neural core, the AI's control matrix had collapsed. But the warship was still up there. Silent. Waiting. It hadn't opened fire, but it hadn't withdrawn either. The Terran front wasn't sure how much damage we had done. Which meant we had a sliver of time. A thin, fragile window. We made our way through the scorched edge of the crater, back toward the jungle where the fringe exfil point was buried. Cade's people moved ahead, silent and efficient, guiding us through the underbrush as distant thunder rolled across the sky. It wasn't weather. The dreadnought was repositioning. Cade glanced at me. "We hit them harder than they expected." "They'll adapt," I replied. "They always do." We reached the outpost just before dusk. It was little more than a camouflaged metal hatch buried beneath the roots of a massive tree, but once inside, I saw the tech. Real fringe infrastructure, off-grid servers, old SolNet intercepts, analog relays, and physical data cores. Cade led me to a terminal, then tapped into the secure feed. "The signal you sent, before the blackout, it reached more than me. Got picked up by a few Black Mirror nodes in the outer rim. Some of them leaked it. Terran Command's trying to contain it, but it's already spreading." I leaned on the console, exhausted. "So the truth's out there." "Parts of it," he nodded. "Enough to make people start asking questions." The screen flickered. A live feed from the crater, taken by a drone, one of ours. The Virellians had returned. I saw Phasek among them, standing in the place where the core had once stood. His feathers glowed gold now, a color I hadn't seen before. Hope, maybe. Or mourning. He looked up, as if sensing the drone. And then he looked past it. At me. I stared back through the feed, heart twisting. I had told him we came in peace. I had believed it. And I had nearly helped destroy his world. Now all I could offer him was the truth, ugly, fragile, and incomplete. But still it was truth. Cade watched me quietly. "What now?" I turned from the screen and walked to the far console where my diplomatic crest sat. I picked it up. The polished metal was scratched and blackened. A symbol of peace forged in lies. I dropped it into the flame of the outpost's fusion stove. The metal hissed, then melted. No more masks, I said. Cade raised an eyebrow. So what are you now? I don't know, I admitted. But I'm not going back. If Earth wants this planet, they'll have to face it. And me? With open eyes. He nodded slowly. There's a resistance forming. Not just here. Other worlds. Other operatives waking up to what the fronts become. I looked up. The dreadnought was still a dark shape against the fading sky, but it wasn't moving. Maybe Command didn't know how to respond to failure. Or maybe they were waiting to strike when we least expected it. But for the first time, we weren't just running. We had a chance to fight. As night fell, the Virellian jungle began to hum again, not in fear, but in recovery. The roots moved with purpose, the trees no longer still. I could feel the pulse of the planet beneath my feet. It wasn't broken. It had survived. Just like us. I took one last look at the stars and felt something stir in my chest. Not fear. Not vengeance. Something else. Resolve. Because Earth hadn't just created a monster with ZELOS. They had created its first real opposition. And I was going to make sure they remembered my name.